This is Meredith for Real, the Curious Introvert, and I'm Meredith. Here, we explore the nuanced, less obvious, and paradoxical aspects of society. I like to say a bear is okay, a tricycle's cool, but a bear on a tricycle? Now that's interesting. Add a dash of taboo, and we're there. These are the conversations you thought you'd never get to have. Each episode is different, so bring your ADD and your earbuds and have a look around. This week is another bear on a tricycle. She's a swinger and a psychologist. She wrote a book called The Swinger in the Mirror, where she chronicles not just the steamy encounters of her journey through the lifestyle, but also the evolution of her own sexuality. And in this conversation, we discussed the nuance of monogamy. Who's making the rules? Who's not talking about them? And how do you define cheating as a swinger? Plus the questions every couple should be asking one another to prevent betrayal. So if you end up liking this episode, you'll also like the one I did with a couple who accidentally became swingers. That's episode 86. Lastly, if you've enjoyed a couple episodes of the show, check to see if you're following the show on your podcast app. And if you're not, tap that little button so you never miss out on a new episode. All right, friends, keep it curious. First comes love, then comes marriage. The rules of affection are simple, right? You find your person, you stay with your person. But what if the rules of monogamy are not actually that simple, but we're all pretending they are? Is flirting allowed? Friends of the opposite sex? What about dancing and DMs? My next guest knows all about what happens when assumptions, rationalizations, and secrets enter the chat. She's not just a psychotherapist, she's also a married swinger and an author. In her book, she chronicles her roller coaster of self-reflection and relational entanglements. Today, through her story and psychological expertise, she will chronicle the pitfalls of unspoken expectations, making and remaking the rules of commitment and communication, as we ask the question, what are the rules of monogamy? Reflective reformer, debuting author, seasoned swinger, Kim Lee. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is a really amazing opportunity to sort of talk about everything I wanted to talk about.
I mean, it's been a long time coming. You've worked on that book for a long time, and it really shows. I really enjoyed reading it. It was both an easy read in the way that you can't put it down because of the, the sex scenes. And also it was really thoughtful because you're describing this emotional journey of yourself, your upbringing, your sexuality. I really enjoyed it. And my listeners are super excited about hearing this episode because it's a topic that they really enjoy discussing as well. And one of them sent in the best question that I wanted to kick us off with.
Okay.
So he is a Canadian man. Shout out to Jean. He's been following me for a while. So I wanted to pose this to you as a true or false. Everyone is monogamous until they have an opportunity. True or false? What do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. My first answer would be true. I think that people start off thinking that they only want to have a monogamous type of relationship. That's all they've known. That's all they've ever thought about. It was never outside of that. So I think when they are presented in a situation where it tests that concept, that assumption that I'm only supposed to be with one partner, they might start looking at things differently, and it's a little bit more gray. It's not as black and white as they once thought it to be. I think people are, when they're honest with each other and themselves, that maybe I want something more that I didn't really admit to myself or to my partner.
I was surprised when you emailed me about to pitch being a part of the show, because in your pitch, you talked about being a swinger whose husband cheated on her. And that was outside of the box for me because I thought, wait a minute, you're a swinger. Doesn't that mean anything goes? How can you break rules that aren't there? But then I began to ask myself question upon question, which led me down this rabbit trail of thought. What are the rules of monogamy? And I realized as I was looking around me, the couples around me, and I realized, I don't know what their rules are. Who knows? That's private, right? There's all kinds of rules. Some of them are spoken. Most of them are unspoken.
Exactly.
In your world, in the lifestyle, I feel like there's more of it that is spoken. You're forced to look within yourself and assess and communicate what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. What kind of rules of monogamy have you seen examples of, both in and out of the lifestyle, maybe in your practice too?
And for me, these quote unquote rules of monogamy really can apply to monogamous and to non-monogamous relationships. So I don't want to call it rules of monogamy. The way I would reword it would be the boundaries or the expectations that you might have for yourself and your partner as you navigate your relationship in terms of the commitment to each other. So for me, it's really about looking at having a very important conversation with your partner, even as difficult or awkward as it may be, to actually ask those questions. What are our non-negotiables? What are the deal breakers? What would make you feel secure and safe in our relationship? How do I make you feel like I'm committed to you? Those are the questions that will spurn a lot of thinking and things that you maybe didn't know about your partner. Something, when you start first dating, you're talking about, your job, your likes, dislikes, you have pets, all those questions, marriage, parenting, maybe as you get further into your relationship. But one of the first questions you really should be asking each other is, what do you need from your partner? What's really important for you to have in order for this relationship to be meaningful and successful? And one of the rules that I think, and like I said, it applies to whether you're monogamous or to other non-monogamous types of relationship, is first thing, that you will only love one another, that you would save that emotional connection with your partner, and that you're not going to find that with anybody else. That's sort of like a very basic, very strong expectation in a relationship, a monogamous relationship, and a non-monogamous, monogamous relationship. But also another is respecting each other's feelings and needs. You're looking at your relationship more as a we and us versus an I mentality. What I need from you. It's about what do we need to make this relationship work. So that's another important boundary or expectation. One of the other ones is trust. It always comes back to trust. I think that's one of the huge building blocks and foundation of a strong relationship is about trusting each other. That you know that you can trust each other implicitly, that you have each other's back. Like there's not going to be that I have to worry that's going to bring up issues of insecurity or maybe jealousy, things that you never felt before until you had a situation that presented itself. So these questions come up. So those are the three really strong, important, and well, obviously it doesn't apply to myself and my husband, but having sex with only one other person. In our relationship, that's obviously different, but in a monogamous relationship, the expectation is that you're not going to have sex with anyone else but me. Otherwise, then there's the cheating element that is a deal breaker for a lot of monogamous relationships. So those are the core expectations. And then there are other, I guess, examples of expectations where you're closing in on those boundary violations. Like you mentioned about flirting with someone, or if you're in a heterosexual relationship, friends of the opposite sex. Is that okay? Does that make your partner feel uncomfortable or question the security of their relationship? Another thing that I remember one of my clients brought up was about she had just started dating a guy. They were, getting serious. And then she found out, and one of the reasons that she came to therapy was talking about the trust, because she's had issues with trust in the past. And so he had started communicating with his ex. To him, it was very just friendly, sort of like he was liking her posts or liking her pictures. Something is very simple in his mind. It was not sort of really doing anything, wasn't cheating. But for her, it was bringing up issues about how do I feel? I feel jealous. I don't like this. And how do I bring this up without making it seem like, I'm being unreasonable? To ask your partner and to talk about, because if it's not making you feel happy, then there's a problem. It needs to be talked about.
And you found yourself throughout the book, and which I'll say book, but I want to let people know these are true stories that you're telling in the book here. You talk a lot about how you said things you totally didn't even mean. And that level of communication, that journey of authenticity in telling your husband what you meant was really hard for you. I mean, not just in the beginning of the book where you're chronicling like the beginning of your journey, but there was a person that you call Annie in the book. And you're like, yeah, Annie, go and get a hotel room, but with my husband, just the two of you. And it wasn't really what you wanted. So whether it's swinging with your partner or just your partner meets up and has lunch with an ex who happens to be smoking hot, how do we learn to say what we mean when it comes to our commitment styles?
Yeah. Yes. Even though when you're beginning a relationship with your partner, you may not know your own expectations. Maybe you haven't really thought about it. But the key is, as you start developing a stronger relationship, a bond with your partner, and you're starting to realize what you need from your partner, you need to have these conversations. You can't just keep it in your head and just expect that it'll go away or your partner can read your mind. You actually have to have this conversation. And for me, even though I was thinking in my mind, yes, this is good. Again, coming back to that being a people pleaser, wanting to sort of make everything right for Annie, for him, my partner. I think I should have been much more honest with myself and with Caleb to let him know I'm not feeling good about this at all. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Maybe I'm not sure. I think I was lost. I didn't want to say things that I should have said. So there was a lot of lessons to be learned on my part to trust my gut instinct to say what I really need to say, because it's only going to get more complicated if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Complicated is such a good word. And you communicate the complications of those relationships so vividly in the book. You just feel like you're there. Like it feels like a reality television show. And, I found myself going, don't trust her, Kim. Run away from Annie. She is no good, because she was just out to get your husband for sure. And this is what I enjoy so much about folks that are in the swinger community. I say that like I've talked to a dozen of you. You're literally the third person in an interview setting. I've talked to some other people came out to me privately after I aired the first episode, which I felt very honored that they trusted me with that information. So if that was you, thank you out there. But what's so surprising to me is that there are these aspects of betrayal that still exist within the swinger community. And so I feel like I can hear the voice of my listeners right now going, excuse me, Meredith, you just skimmed over the part about the affair. So because they're probably equally as confused as I was before I read your book. Can you explain in your circumstance, if you're comfortable, how, he had an affair and then you had an emotional affair?
That's right. And
neither of those things are expected under the umbrella of the lifestyle for most of us outside of it.
I mean, with the swinging lifestyle, I think there's that assumption that you can have sex with anybody, it's fine, but that cheating won't happen. And I think that's a misnomer. I think you can have cheating involved. I've met many couples that have left the lifestyle because they end up cheating with their new sex partner, and then they formed a new relationship. So cheating is not something that's a rare occurrence. It does happen, and sometimes more often than not in the swinging lifestyle.
But what is cheating? If you're allowed to sleep with everyone, what is cheating even?
That is very dependent on the couple. Some couples, they don't mind having an open relationship where they can form an emotional connection with their new partner. They will go out, they'll have a sexual and an emotional connection. For my relationship with my partner, Caleb, that's not something that we're supposed to do. That was outside of the boundaries of what we wanted to do. And so when we crossed that boundary of having emotions for someone else, whether they were caring for them or trying to protect, as in Caleb was trying to protect, and we're not thinking about us anymore. We're thinking about the other partner. And that's where the boundaries. So coming back to your question, I think it really depends on the expectations that you and your partner feel strongly about. And so cheating can happen, and it's dependent on whether you violate those expectations that were laid out in your relationship.
And the emotional affair was interesting. I'd love to hear you talk about what that meant in contrast to the boundaries that you had established with Caleb, because honestly, emotional affair, that word is something from my church days.
Mm-hmm.
And I know coincidentally, or maybe not so, that's where you found your first swinging couple was at church,
Mm-hmm.
which I was like, this is a page turner. But, in the Pentecostal community, it was, very much spoken like, don't even give the impression that you're doing something wrong, that emotionally you could be having an affair in your brain. Pornography was considered cheating.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so surprised at the end of your book when you talked about the emotional affair. So can you talk about why that can exist outside the church and how that looked for you?
Yeah, that emotional affair was, for Caleb, to him, the emotional affair was just as bad as if I had actually went and had sex with him. Actually, that probably would have been less bothersome for him. The fact that there was a connection with someone that I would pour my heart and soul to, who I felt understood me better than Caleb. I think Caleb had a hard time getting past that. How can you feel that someone else can provide that kind of comfort or connection to you that I couldn't provide to you? So that was a huge, betrayal for him, more so than if I had just gone and had sex and had no connection with him whatsoever. And I think that was the distinction. We went into the swinging lifestyle, having a very clear separation or line between sex and emotions. There were two polar opposite. We can go and have sex with someone, and that's purely physical. And that's the understanding that Caleb and I went into the lifestyle with. The moment we start having feelings, that changes the whole situation. That's not right anymore. And that gets very complicated. And that's one reason why we have chosen not to do or engage in an open relationship. I know that some of the couples that we've, met over the 15 years that we've been in the lifestyle, they are in an open relationship. But we don't want to go there because for us, it opens up more complications, more emotions, more of everything that, and I'm not saying that open relationships can't work. Some people, they know how to navigate it. For us, I think, given our bad track record, I don't think that's something we want to sort of go down that road just because of the emotions that are attached. And it just creates more complications. That's as simple as that, complications for us.
And you and Caleb didn't communicate about your commitment style until you were engaged. I was surprised. And it only came up because y'all were talking about kink and what turns you on. Are commitment style and kink usually linked together when it comes to couples communication?
Mm-hmm. I think that for us, we started having those conversations, but it was very, at first, it was sort of testing the boundaries. Well, what do you think of this about using, blindfolds and handcuffs and those kind of kinky things? And it was very innocent, It was only over time that we got more and more into our sexual needs and being very honest about what we wanted from each other, what really turned each other on in the bedroom. And so going forward, we were able to sort of be more honest and telling each other what we needed. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but.
Well, you were saying that for you, it was the evolution of a communication that came from the kink, if I'm summarizing that correctly, that it wasn't necessarily the kink directly related to the swinging lifestyle. But yeah, I think you answered my question, that for you at least, it was the progression of communication that opened that allowed that to come into the conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for non-lifestyle couples, like if they wanted to have a conversation about, you know, these unspoken rules. And it's because that's what's crazy is we all think we know the rules and we all think, hey, you know what? We've gotten this far. Let's just not rock the boat. Right. But your boat ain't rocked until it's rocked.
That's
and then
true.
You have a situation where one person violates these invisible rules and then you're upset. Now, I did want to ask you about the evolution of these rules because you have said either off mic or maybe I read it, that sometimes these rules change. Like there is an evolution to how you feel about things. But couldn't changing the rules or them air quotes evolving just be one partner wanting to change the rules to suit them as time goes on?
Honestly, absolutely. I think we as individuals, we change over time. And I think I mentioned to you before how we want to live our life, what we want from life in our 20s is different from 30s, 40s, and 50s. So we absolutely change. And I find that for myself, as I'm getting older, I'm more aware of what I need from my partner and whether it's emotionally, sexually, physically. And so, yeah, absolutely. You're evolving in terms of your needs and you are expressing what you need to your partner. So yeah, to fulfill what you need in your life. So absolutely, these needs do evolve and change over time. Going back to your first question about, about the kink and evolving, I don't think anyone, when they start a relationship, if they are very vanilla and not know what they want or expect, these conversations start off very rudimentary, right? Where it's sort of like you're just asking basic questions, but over time, you start to know what kind of questions to ask each other or to talk about. I don't think Caleb and I knew, we didn't even know what swinging was all about. We never even talked, like that word, lifestyle, swing, never entered our conversation or consciousness. So for us, it really was just an evolution of having an honest conversation about what turned each other on and then evolved from that.
Well, when you started, like when you went to your first sex club, it wasn't even legal in Canada. Like it was, I didn't even think about like the legality of it. That's not something, I don't even know when it became legal or illegal in the US. When you went into that first sex club and you were looking around, you had a lot of feelings and thoughts and emotions and excitement and confusion. Can you talk a little bit about how that felt for you and how you navigated that in terms what was next for you and Caleb as far as your commitment to each other?
Absolutely. When we first, as you mentioned, when we first went to that sex club, we didn't even know it was really a sex. I mean, we were just in another city. We wanted to have some fun. And we just asked the cab driver, can you suggest a place? And that's where he took us. And so when we went inside and talked to the manager, I think that's when we clued in like what's really going on here. So we had no idea. So our eyes were pretty much wide open. Like, what is going on? What have we gotten ourselves into? But at the same time, we were very curious and sort of fascinated. Like, this is a completely different world that we've never seen. So we wanted to know more. So there was a bit of a mixed bag of feelings, excitement, yet fear, anxiety, like, what are we doing here? What are we supposed to be doing here? So all these emotions were coming out that first time. But there was definitely an excitement because, like I said, this was the inside to another world that we've never seen or we never knew about. So going into that, I think we were playing it safe because we really were just flies on the wall kind of thing, just watching, just observing what is going on here. Like we felt like we were like in the wild and seeing how everything plays out, not participating. And I think when we left there, it definitely piqued our interest. We were like, okay, that was weird. but intriguing at the same time. So it definitely added to our conversation about, well, is that something we want to sort of engage in and maybe go to another club and see how it feels? And that's a conversation that Caleb and I had. So that was good. It was part of our keeping our sex life alive and engaged with each other.
Hey, Curiositors, just a quick pause to show gratitude to our sponsors and give you some special deals. It's that time of year for front porch pumpkins and football barbecues, but here in the southern U.S., mosquitoes can still be an unwanted part of the equation. I've been using Insect's mosquito service since 2019, and I love that they guarantee their work. And pollinators are always top of mind. Don't wait to get on their schedule. If you're in the Florida Panhandle or the Gulf Coast of Alabama, give Insect a call, ensec.net. Don't pick another boring venue for your next work event. Check out one of the Pensacola Historic Trust's 12 museums. If you watch the show on YouTube, you see the beautiful backdrop of Trader John's, the exhibit where I record the show inside the Pensacola Museum of History. Booking an event with the Trust will not just be memorable for your guests, it will support the efforts to keep Pensacola's historic charm preserved. And if you're planning a trip here and need an indoor activity option, pick up a ticket in person so you can show the agent one of my emails and get $2 off an adult ticket. Learn more at historicpensacola.org. Now back to the show. Remember to stay till the end where I give you a sneak peek of next week's episode. I found it interesting that you shared that you, looking back, wished you had established the rules. I love that you even have the rules listed in the book. That was pretty cool because it kind of could inspire some other people to communicate with their partners about what are our boundaries, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And not communicating about those up front caused so many problems between the two of you, and made kind of what was this exciting new time that you just described to a very complicated and sticky time because there was, other people and, you weren't a united front. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't have this external experience to launch a conversation with their partner, what would be the best way that you would suggest as a mental health professional that someone bring this up with their partner? Because I have a couple movies in my head playing about this. And one of them is so I would like to be able to dance with other people. I don't know why that's kind of a dumb example, but I don't think that would go well. I feel like if you just came to your partner and was like, this is what I want to do now. I'm sure there's a smarter way to do that. So what's a smarter way to bring up the topic of the rules of monogamy with your person?
Sometimes you have to sort of bring up a conversation that might be awkward and difficult. As you mentioned, I think Caleb and I probably would have averted a lot more problems in our marriage if we had more conversations about these expectations and boundaries and how we could have detoured around that. I think for couples, they really have to just have a conversation. I mean, maybe when you find a moment where you're comfortable, you're lying in bed and you're actually just saying, I was just thinking about something and I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that I would like to have more connection in our sex life. So having a really honest, true conversation with your partner to really explore what's going on in your head. So your partner hears it as well. They can't read your mind. They don't know what you're feeling and you're thinking. And until you are both honest with each other, and you don't have to sort of, okay, I want a threesome. You're not going to start off something, you're going to sort of have a very gentle conversation about what you want, what you've been thinking about. So it's really not just the message, it's the delivery of the message and how you approach it gently with your partner, where you don't say it in a way that's going to make your partner feel insecure, scared, defensive, upset. That's the key. It's just the way you approach the conversation is just as important as the message that you want to deliver to your partner.
I like that you are making it about the connection, though, because in my mind, again, this weird little like sitcom that's playing in my head from the characters in your book. It's like one person saying to the other, yeah, I want to have a threesome. It's not about connecting. It's about branching out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting that your answer was like about exploring how you can connect further as a couple. Again, this is totally breaking the stereotype of what I thought, that swingers were. I did want to ask you though, because of all of the turmoil that ensued there was two different couples. Obviously, for those who have not read the book, there was two different couples, the church couple and the neighbor couple.
Mm-hmm.
And there was problems with both, and it neither of them worked out in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you don't do the foursome thing. You just like swing and adios, right? Yeah. Okay.
For the most,
I'm sure that's a technical.
For the most part, yes. Yes,
Okay, for the most part.
Yes. I think we decided after our track record is not good with monogamous foursomes. And we came to realize, Caleb and I realized that it just gets too complicated because you don't know the mindset of the other couple. You don't know what's going on in their marriage, behind the scenes, what they're not getting from each other. So when you bring another couple in a very monogamous, relationship, things come out and it might get more complicated. I'll keep using the word complicated because that really is what happened with us. It gets more complicated because you're trying to navigate everybody's needs from 2 to 4 now. And that's where, wires can get crossed and things can happen and boundaries are violated. So for us, I think it's just easier if we just have connection with other couples. And not to say that we don't see the same couple. It's not like we're like on speed dating here. Yeah. We form connections. And for us, it's really getting to know a couple as, friends and seeing if we gel together, if we're on the same boat in terms of our expectations. And we might see them more often than not, but we're not exclusive with them. And I think that was the key. We're not going to be in an exclusive relationship with another couple because that didn't go well for us the first 2 times.
First 2 times. Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people would argue like, why even be in the lifestyle at all? Isn't all of it more complicated? It's caused you lots of problems, and some heartache. Why even do it?
That's a really good question. And I mean, when I sort of add up the pros and cons of it, for us, yes, even though it's caused a lot of issues, there's been some benefits of it, of being in the lifestyle, because it actually made Caleb and I talk a lot more, communicate a lot more than we had pre-lifestyle. And I think unless you're in the lifestyle, and you're going through, you're having sex with other people, you really have to look at your relationship very deeply and to see, are we solid? So these are the kind of questions that you're asking your partner and of each other that maybe you wouldn't have had those discussions if you weren't in the lifestyle. I know that that's what applied to us. So if anything, even though there is some, sore points along the way, it made us more honest with each other. It forced us to communicate better with each other if we're going to continue down this route of staying in the lifestyle. So I think there were some benefits because, in addition to the fact that it's keeping our relationship, our connection alive. I mean, sexually, we're feeling more together because of this experience. And as long as we adhere to the rules, what makes us as a couple stronger, connected, playing within the boundaries, then it works out well. Without that, then it would create chaos in our lives.
For those outside the lifestyle, they might additionally pose that just not even bringing anything up would make things simple. And I have a feeling that you don't agree with that statement. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on why just never communicating connection or boundaries would make things simple or complicated.
Keeping your head in the sand for us is not the way to go. Keeping it simple doesn't make you reflect, process, converse about what you need in your life. It's important for people to have these important conversations. Simple is not easier just because you choose to sort of turn a blind eye to it. Like, let's keep status quo. Let's not talk about it. I think you need to have these because you and your partner are continually growing and evolving. You're going to change. You're going to have needs. So whether you say it out loud or not, it's inside of you. So you're just keeping it in. So I don't think that's very healthy either, because at some point it's going to come out. It's going to seep out. It's going to transfer out. So be honest with yourself. Be honest with your partner. And as you change and you decide, I need more in my life, whatever that may be.
Before we sign off, do you have any closing advice to those couples, regardless of their commitment style, that want to create the rules, if you will, of monogamy within their own relationship? They want to customize that boundary making process and become closer in the process. Do you have any words of wisdom that you want to leave with them before we sign off?
Sure. Be real. Be honest. Discuss everything that you're thinking and feeling and revisit it from time to time. It's not like what you say, last year, it's going to maybe be true this year. Everything changes. You change. And so continually having that conversation with your partner is very important. And also reminding your partner that having these it's about you together as us, that we're in it together. I want to make our relationship stronger. I want us to stay connected. I want us to grow, old together, if that's what you want to do, but you want to maintain the integrity of your relationship. You don't want just to coexist with each other in this marriage where you're just coasting. You want to be happy. You want to be engaged. You want to feel like I couldn't be happier with anybody else, So I think it's important for everyone to continue having the conversations with each other, being very truthful.
I like that. I'm going to put all the tips and the questions that you pose here in my Saturday email, because I send out one for Monday when our episode airs, Saturday as kind of cliff notes and clickable links. I'll certainly have a link to your book and I'll put the questions there. So if you're listening to this and you would like to get that and you're not already, just go to my website, meredithforreal.com, and you can get it. But where can people get your book? That's the big question.
You can learn more about me and my book and where to get it on my website. It's called theswingerinthemirror.com. You can reach out and connect with me, read my blogs through my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X as you call it now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting with you and just being able to talk about everything that people aren't talking about.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, you'll also like the one I did with a couple who accidentally became swingers, episode 86. And they say word of mouth is still the best way for a podcast to grow. So since you made it this far, now's a great time to take a screenshot and share about it on social media. Be sure to tag me. I'm at Meredith for Real. Stay tuned next week when I talk with the psychologist featured on the TV show Hoarders as we discuss the psychology of our stuff.